On behalf of Udan Saluters, this is Rishikesh Vyas, and I take great pleasure in welcoming you all today evening. We are very fortunate that today we have amongst us Vinee Ajmera, young, vibrant, motivational speaker, founder and chief executive of Personage, professional speaker, executive coach, positive transformation facilitator, podcast host, author, and I can go and go on. In short, she is a multi-talented lady. Vinee helps leaders and organizations unlock and maximize their potential while rediscovering their inner brilliance. She is sought after positive transformation and communication specialist who has been spotlighted on TED Talks and other coveted forums. And she is one of the most sought after TED Talk speaker. Vinee strives to bring her bold, challenging approach and energetic sense of fun to all of her speaking engagement shows and workshops. She believes in turning ideas into reality if only there were more time to implement them all. When she is not working up a storm, you can find her in her studio recording podcasts, regularly meeting industry leaders to gain leadership insights, and optimistically checking her mailbox on speaking or coaching engagements. She has a very vast background whereby she has been associated with top class corporate entities like Jet Airways, Singapore Airlines, Virgin Atlantica, SR Group, and so on. Vinee is also self-coaching and personal excellence expert on Tata Sky Specials channel on TV, active core committee member of Young Bombay Forum of Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Till now, she has addressed, trained and coached and motivated more than 10,000 people, including corporate executives, leaders, students, community group, women leaders, entrepreneurs, hospitality and aviation professionals, politicians, artists, and very much more. Also, recently, she has come out with her own book. She has authored a book. I will request her whenever she feels appropriate during the course of today's web talk to throw some light on that as well. Vinee, we are very fortunate to have you on our platform, and it is our good fortune, not of us, but all the people who are hearing us today, to have such a dynamic person with us. It's all yours, Vinee.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rishikesh. I realize that the introduction keeps going on, but I'm so passionate about each and every one of those streams. It's hard for me to make it a little bit more succinct. And yes, I am a newbie author. I have just written my first anthology with 22 other co-authors called The Power of Why, which I'm very excited about. And I will be also writing another one due for release in November. So that's about the book. I am extremely excited that everyone who's joined us here today has come on a Saturday evening to hear about leadership and leadership competencies, because this is a topic very dear to my heart. This is something that I've toiled for the last 1.5 years. And of course, I'll tell you more about this towards the course, towards the end of the session. But to begin with, what are leadership competencies? I think these words are often loosely used. Sometimes they are not completely understood, and some of us may think of some things as leadership competencies, and some may be like, okay, what exactly is it? Is it something very different than what we have been practicing, or is it all the same? So I'm just going to try and break it down a little bit, and then what I would like to cover are the competencies that I feel are shouting out loud in the era today. Like now we are in a place where leadership has become more about followership. So you can only be a leader if you have followers, and you can only be an effective leader if you yourself also are an effective follower. So to me, leadership competencies are various skills and behaviors that contribute to superior performance. So you've been doing your job, you know your skills, you know your technical skills and your functional skills, but these are behaviors and skills that are going to help you take your performance a notch higher, also with regard to yourself and the people around you, and hence promote better business outcomes. So if I had to draw an analogy with leadership competency, I call it like a dish. Like if you had to think of an aloo paratha, and I'm not sure if everyone likes aloo parathas as much as I do, but I personally love aloo parathas. And then again, aloo paratha is not made of just aloo. So it has a lot of different ingredients that actually form the essential components of the paratha, which finally give the flavor or the taste or the final realization to the aloo paratha by adding it to the aloo. So similarly, your leadership competencies are different ingredients that help you become a far more holistic and effective leader. It is actually the one core factor, your competencies, that separate you from just your designation as a boss to you being a leader who has a team that is tied in with your own vision towards your organization and towards your department. So it's these competencies that are going to bridge that gap between you being a boss and you being a leader. Uh, that said, leadership doesn't necessarily have to be exhibited only by bosses, right? We all are aware that leadership is found in various dimensions of life. It could even be a child demonstrating leadership. Since we are here and we have all your esteemed, highly educated, prolific intellectuals on the webinar today, we're going to talk more about professional and business outcomes with regard to leadership. And that's what I'd like to touch upon more. Currently, we are leading into a new paradigm. And while some leadership competencies are core towards any organization, any time frame in the world and with circumstances or any role, I would really like you to, at this point and moving forward, focus on certain competencies that are going to eventually form that perfect aloo paratha recipe. In this case, the leadership recipe for unleashing your leadership potential. And that essentially is what this session is about. But I want to bring to your, I want you to recognize and I want you to start thinking of where you stand on the scale with regard to those competencies. And then I want you to start consciously working towards honing them up even more. So I'm just going to share my screen with you now. Okay. Right. So, of course, largely whenever we speak of leadership competencies, and there are so many, I try to divide them into 5 broader pillars. They range from pillars of vision, values, and governance, and then those have the competencies with regard to your thinking skills, your ability to critically think, your ability to be able to have a seasoned judgment, have a business financial acumen, your strategic management competencies, and that's all related to business outcomes and also having a vision to take a business forward. Then you have change championship, which is related to this VUCA world and everything that's constantly changing. So how are you gearing up to that? And like I said earlier, today we are going to talk more about leadership competencies. While these 5 pillars embody the competencies required to make you an effective leader, and then there are these many, I would like to cover the competencies which are purely concentrated on leadership. And when it, like I said earlier, when it comes to leadership, on self and with people around you, which is your teams, your stakeholders, your peers, and your bosses, as well as your subordinates. So we're going to try and focus on those ones. And I also feel that the traditional leadership practices, I'm going to stop. Okay, I think we can just continue with this. So the traditional leadership practices are now fairly outdated. Even the culture is getting outdated. We are all getting into this new age culture where often in many organizations, we may have noticed right from the way we address our bosses and leaders to the way we do things, to the flexibility we have to show towards our teams, even if they are our subordinates, has started to change. And that is actually resulting into certain good results and certain challenging results. But largely the old traditional style of leadership has become quite ineffective. And so much research, in different cross sections, different countries, wherever research has been done, 70 to 75% of the workforce largely seems disengaged. And most of them feel that they are disengaged because of their own bosses and their own managers. And in fact, there's also a level of distrust. So the teams don't particularly trust their leader, one, to know his job, to know where they're heading, also to have their interests in mind when he's taking this forward. So somewhere this style is not working, because now we are dealing with newer generations, newer people, newer era, newer methods. There are different kinds of challenges. Earlier, our challenges could have been more intellectual. We would have been spoken about knowledge, acquiring, qualifications, and now it's all about skills. It's about competencies. The kind of challenges are different. People have different cognitive challenges, different emotional challenges. I think earlier in our workplaces, we seldom really spoke to our bosses about our personal problems. You know, we had a fight with the girlfriend, or whether the father was rude to you. We never spoke about that. I think our bosses got to know much later who was even there in your family. And today, that gap has slowly been filled. In some places for the better, and in some places for the worse, because then people are not being able to segregate their work life from their personal lives. So how do we understand which is the right thing to do, which is the right way to connect with these new age practices and new age approaches and the new age people? So while they are dissatisfied, while they are disengaged, it doesn't really have to be that way. Our new normal, especially with COVID, the post-COVID, and currently COVID times, is emerging every single day. It is an emerging concept. So it's hard for me or anybody to tell you that, hey, the new normal is going to be like this, because it's emerging every day and we still don't know. But while we are navigating this new normal, the one competency, in fact, I think there are two competencies that I am championing big time. I can actually keep shouting out from rooftops that we really need to hone up. We really need to keep going back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, have I demonstrated these competencies today? These are the two very critical competencies now, which are becoming essential. I'm going to move to the next slide. Yeah. And to me, those competencies have come out of the key pillars and they have achieved their own place. I don't know why yes. And they have achieved their own place. And those are the competencies of agility and empathy. So why do we say agility is important? Well, we are navigating the new normal, and that means we are going to see a lot of change and a lot of rapid change. And this change is going to be constant. It is constantly changing. Now, at a time like this, if we are not clued in, if we are not ready to take faster decisions, we are not ready to look at what needs to be done and then also implement it, we might fall short. We might stay behind. What would agility mean? What would agility mean to you? So I use a lot of quotes and I get inspired by a lot of quotes. And I think some quotes sum up everything within a sentence, right? So your agility is being able to adapt to a change, to respond to it, to break down any barriers that you're facing with regard to your own mindset and meet your changing business needs for the new defined outcomes, right? If there's any advancement in technology, in approach, in practices, then that is what agility is. You identify that this is changing. This is the change I need to embrace, whether I'm a leader and making the change, or I'm the leader who's following the change and making sure the change is implemented. But we are going to have to take faster decisions. Also, they cannot be frivolous. They will have to be faster and measured decisions, but they cannot be decisions that are now going to go through this whole bureaucratic practices that we used to have, that, oh, wait, I have to take a decision. Let me have like this nice big mastermind done for it. Let me ask the 7, 8, 10 layers of approval. Let me sit on it. Let me work towards it. And only when I'm pushed into the direction of taking a decision, I'll take a decision. That's not what agility is anymore. So we need to adapt to these changes. And there is no choice but to be agile if you want to survive now. And of course, eventually, if you want to succeed. And the question isn't whether you're going to be agile or not. The question is, are you going to be faster and quicker than the others? So can you help your customers? Can you help your stakeholders also to be able to survive in this world? Are you thinking quick to see how can you adapt to newer changes to make things better than where we are at right now on a constant basis? We need to be flexible to change. We need to be flexible to even accept the change and even implement it. And this might need to be done overnight. So it's not a change which will say, hey, you know what, I think COVID's going to last. Let me figure this out next month. Dekhte to hai, kya hota hai. We can't have that attitude anymore. And at the same time, what is agility not? It isn't frivolous and it isn't the end goal. So your agility, you are being agile to support your business vision and outcomes. You are not changing your business vision and outcomes to become agile. So always remember, agility is a competency that's going to help you become a better leader. It doesn't have to become an end goal. And also, I do realize that a lot of times leaders feel that, no, I think, just to keep taking these decisions and implementing changes fast can make an organization unstable. People are not receptive to change. People will cringe. They will complain. But you know what? That's not going to happen. A lot of research has shown it's the way you implement those systems. Agility is, in fact, going to result into a much stable organization in the times to come, then to question the very being of the organization in the times to come. And to me, if you have to start developing this competency, maybe some of you already are, but I do realize that a large number of us still are wary of taking those kind of decisions. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, am I anticipating, what are the changes I'm anticipating within my business sphere, within my industry sphere, right? And then you need to react to it. You need to understand what changes you need to do. You need to react to it decisively. And again, in a measured way, but just do not sit on it. You need to navigate. So the easier thing to do is to simplify things. So I think there was a decision-making process, there was a change management process, there was implementation process. Keep those processes. Perhaps the way you can build agility within your own organizations and your own departments is by simplifying all of these processes. Cut out on any process which is not a value add and which is just becoming cumbersome and slowing you down, and also demoralizing those around you who are not understanding what's going on. So cut down on any process that is not adding value to your next step and then to your goals. Short-term goals in the distance with regard to the decisions you're taking for agility. So that's really good. And then maintain your effectiveness. There are going to be, so you can be agile about something today, and tomorrow you can choose to forget that, okay, I took this one decision, which was a great decision, and now I've got my credit. I took that call, it worked out okay, and that's fine. And now I'm going to sit on any other decision that I need to make. We can't really think like that. You are going to have to make a decision which is faster, and you're going to have to consistently do or take decisions as circumstances reveal themselves. And that's really important. So what are the other things you can do to build agility within your organization? Well, for one, identify your team members who have demonstrated agility, who have demonstrated that quality. And also when you're hiring next, you need to hire agile leaders. The next thing is avoid an agility mismatch, which is do not give this picture that you are agile or the organization is agile, and then your team see that nothing is changing, everything is getting stuck at a decision-making process, and that whole beautiful rosy picture of, we are quick-footed, we get things done is not happening, and now everyone's stuck waiting for things to happen. The moment there's that misalignment, you need to arrest it. You need to ask yourself, am I demonstrating agility, and am I being effective with follow through, with consistency? I think that is really important. So introduce the change and then manage that change. People will be uncertain, people will be reluctant. So you need to manage them. You need to manage their insecurities and their changes. If I can just give you an example. So a few years ago, there was a serial entrepreneur who also kept investing into, I think I'm going to just close this share for a bit. Yeah. So there was a serial entrepreneur who was investing into various different companies also. And now he was on the board of a few companies. He was someone who was taking bigger decisions in these companies. And then he realized a lot of times his founders, some other team members, business partners would come and ask him questions that needed taking decisions. And he just found himself sitting on those questions. He would say, yeah, let's discuss this tomorrow. Oh yeah, I'm waiting for this data from this person. Nee, I think I need to understand what's happening in the market. He kept delaying decisions in every area. Because I think also the higher up we go, our risk-taking ability starts coming down. More than risk-taking, even the decision-making ability. So that's the thing you need to watch out for. So at one point, he realized that nothing was moving, and he was only constantly stalling, and someone brought it to his notice. And that's when he realized that herein lies the problem. I need to take decisions. So I'd rather figure out what all I need to be able to take the decision than to just sit on it, dream about it, push it away. He had not realized he was doing that. The moment someone brought to his notice, he realized that it's a good idea. If it fails, then at least he will learn that this idea isn't working. This step that is needed to be taken is not working, and he will realize it quicker. And honestly, if you fail, take it as a feedback. On the other hand, if it turns out right and if it achieves the outcome you were looking for, then, well, you've actually done something good for your own organization and contributed towards your business outcome. So take decisions. Decision making is an ability that you can start honing up, because that's what's going to allow you to remain agile. And like I keep emphasizing, that's not a quality that you're going to require to survive anymore, but I mean to thrive anymore. You need that quality at the survival stage. And then how much more and how well your skill, your competency of agility is built will decide whether you are going to even thrive in that space. So don't be afraid of being decisive. The next quality that we spoke about is my favorite, and that is empathy. Okay, I think that's gone here. This wasn't really a competency many people spoke about till 7-8 years ago. We always only spoke about our technical skills, functional skills, and then people skills. Then we started recognizing that, well, with people, you need to have empathy. It's extremely critical. So when you show deep empathy towards others, there's a very beautiful thing that happens. They start trusting you when you ask them for something. They don't get defensive if you're asking a question which requires deliverables. So let's say, hey, you were supposed to give me this project and it hasn't still come through. What were you doing? Why are you wasting time? That's our normal mind is channelized to think the person wasted time and so it didn't come through. And then the person feels, oh my God, my boss is going to fire me, or this person who's in charge of this project is going to fire me. Let me just immediately raise my defenses, whether they are valid or not. But when you show that you are empathetic, the defenses start coming down and suddenly it's replaced with positive energy. They might tell you, hey, it was going to be ready, but I just found a much better way to do it. So I might need a little more time and I will fix it and I will send this to you in this much time. And what that's going to do is that's going to help you stick to your business outcomes and not get into a personal conflict. And net, as a leader, you will be respected and you will be valued, and your team will also be transparent with you. So even if they are facing problems with something, they will be able to approach you without fearing that you might just yell at them for not figuring it out for themselves, or you might just probably find them incompetent. So I think that's the power of empathy that you absolutely should not disregard. Before I even go forward to what empathy really is, I want to share, I'm sure many of you would have read this letter, July, so about 3 months ago in May, that Brian Chesky, the founder of Airbnb, sent to his team. To me, I think that letter was a lesson it was like a complete lesson in leadership competencies, what leadership should be about. And I would love to share that letter with you, but just very few parts of it, which I feel were really, really moving, and they demonstrated empathy. So there are some parts, let's see if it's getting connected. Okay. Okay, can you all still see the share? Okay. So I think now you might be able to. So, well, sadly, the letter was not to encourage his team. It was a very, very tragic letter because they were laying off employees. But the way he articulated the letter, any person that could have been working in the team would have at least thought, of course, you come with problems and you come with attrition, resentment, post. But when you read this letter, you start thinking, wow, like this is the leader I want to be because this guy had done his homework. So he told his people, right? He had the first most beautiful thing that he wrote. And I think, like I keep saying, this is a lesson in leadership. This is my 7th time talking to you from my house. And I think this must have been in a period of about 1.5 to 2 months. And this is perhaps just after the lockdown, even in the US. So each time we have talked, I've shared good news and bad news. But today I have to share some very sad news. So just this one line conveyed that he's been in touch with his teams. He's not just left them hanging dry. And I will tell you an example later where someone else had done it. And that's mistrust begins. And he said, today is not good or bad news. Today is just sad news. That immediately just sets the tone for the letter that, hey, I am on your team and I'm sad about doing or saying what I'm about to say. So then he went with, he told them that he's obviously, some of the employees are going to have to be let go. And then he said, let me start with how we arrived at this decision. This is him again saying that, hey, I'm letting people go and I have teams with me. Both of them will have these questions. What will their emotions or feelings be? First, they will know whether you even thought this through, or is this like a knee-jerk reaction towards a recession or an oncoming recession? So he said, I will explain this decision to you. And he took them through those points. And he was honest. So what I really loved is he was vulnerable and he was honest. He said that it has become clear that we would have to go further when we face true hard truths. We don't know exactly when travel will return. Now, the entire business is based on travel of Airbnb. So if travel has stopped, then the business is at complete shutdown because that's the purpose of the business. It's not a means to the business. And then he said, when travel does return, it will look different. I'll take you through my favorite. Actually, I've made notes of these favorite parts. So let me just show you. Now, I really loved this particular line, what he wrote, because again, this shows his empathy that these decisions, if I'm letting go of 1,900 employees, they are not a reflection of the work from the people of these teams, which means you're not being let go because you were not good enough. Okay, it doesn't mean that. And it also doesn't mean that everyone in the teams will leave. And then he has said teams across all of Airbnb will be impacted and many teams will be reduced in size based on how well they map to where Airbnb is headed. So he's made it very clear. He's given complete clarity on, yes, you're going to go. And no, that does not mean you were not a good employee. It's just that our business model will change. And when the business model changes, there are some things that may not be there as a part of the business. And that's why we may not be able to have you on. Then he's come to how we approach reduction. So he's explained everything stepwise. It was important that we had a clear set of principles guided by our core values for how we would approach reductions, right? So then he's written these core values where he gave his rationale. They did not want to compromise on diversity. They wanted to do as much as they could for all the ones who would be impacted. They wanted to communicate these decisions only until all the details were landed and where they could be transparent, which he was. So, and he has said, he's not said I'm staying true to these principles. He's saying, I have done my best to stay true to these principles and you're still open to judging. What was most beautiful was that he didn't just say that, leave it at that, let the team handle it. He took charge, right? He demonstrated clarity and he told them for how long you will still continue to work, what your severance package will be. And then he went one more step in finding job support, which means one, he demonstrated agility because this letter was written in May, by which time they had taken all the decisions, which means maybe 2 months into, I don't even think 2 months into the US lockdown, but 2 months into this whole Corona fear and this whole Corona, I think I can just call it Corona era, that he decided within that, that is called agility, to be able to take those business calls. And uh, it's hard to judge that laying off people is good or bad, but sometimes the businesses need to survive, and if the businesses don't have money, what do you do? So it's just a very tricky space. But if this is the decision he took, the way he conveyed it reflected many of these competencies that I feel are going to be very critical going forward. So then he spoke to them about support, that yes, we are not just going to say bye-bye and then start focusing on fixing our own home, because that's also what he was doing. He set up several processes or several systems and several teams to help them with finding new jobs, to be able to give certain counseling, to be able to have an alumni placement team. Also, yeah, they were allowing everyone to keep their Apple laptops. So whatever they could, they allowed. Were the decisions right or wrong? Decisions you'll only realize they're right or wrong after a while. But the way he went about it is the part I want you to focus on. And then here's what will happen next. And he explained to them how they're going to move forward. He demonstrated motivation by saying, first, I'm thankful to everyone here at Airbnb. And throughout this harrowing experience, I have been inspired by all of you. I think that motivates someone to believe that, hey, I did showcase competencies and skills that even my leader, my boss, my founder found inspiring. Like, I was good. It's not that he feels I was short of my own deliverables. Even in the worst of circumstances, I've seen the very best of us. The world needs human connection now more than ever, and this cannot be emphasized enough. And I know Airbnb will rise to the occasion. I believe this because I believe in you. So for the ones who stayed back, this was really a booster as well. Also for the ones who were leaving, but they would be dealing with those challenges, right, later. And then second, he said, I have a deep feeling of love for all of you. This is nurturing. This is a competency of nurturing your teams. And the human part is always more important than the travel part. What we are about is belonging, and at the center of belonging is love. And lastly, the last part of his letter, I am truly sorry. So there is gratitude, there is inspiration, and please know that this is not your fault. The world will never stop seeking the qualities and talents that you brought to Airbnb. That helped make the company what it is. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your qualities with the company. I think to me, this was the most beautiful lesson in leadership. But more than that, if I had to talk about the skill of empathy, that is what it was. It's our ability to connect with someone at an emotional level, right? It's to understand our emotions and to understand their emotions, their situations, and then to tune them in towards the outcomes that you're collectively looking for. Empathy, in fact, now contributes towards your leadership charisma. It's not just about how you look and how charming you appear. It is really about how empathetic you are with your teams that contribute to your charisma. So ask yourself, am I doing all that I can to help my people? A lot of you are leaders, a lot of you are leading teams, a lot of you are high achievers who may have peers around you, who may have bosses who rely on you, or who may have teams, may not be directly under you, but they are the teams who are your stakeholders. Are you doing all that you can to make these people feel their best right now? Practice reading others. So when you're talking to someone, don't just say it and feel that, oh, well, I use the right words, I use the right punctuations, I showed concern, so they may be fine. Try to practice reading those cues. Practice recognizing and regulating your own emotions. And how would you do that? I think this is the time when we need to start journaling. Figure out, when are you feeling your lowest? When do you tend to have an emotional outburst? Can you, at this point, or even ever, when you're looking to be a great leader, afford to have these outbursts in front of your teams? So start recognizing those, because the moment you recognize and journal it down, you will be able to control it. So to me, a great way to build empathy is by journaling and observing your own emotional feelings and outbursts, or even times when you're happy. And then observing others. Try and understand how they could be feeling. You could also practice expressing your feelings more appropriately. We are all human beings, but we always let nowadays, and this is something we've seen very often, we feel that if you're feeling a certain way, let's just blot it out. But I think the conflict arises when you're looking to look at yourself as a leader. So when you look at yourself as a leader, you are giving up that right to just be abrupt, to be rude, to be insensitive. That's when you start building empathy and you become a lot more understanding towards your teams. Let's go to the next competency. And that is self-management. We already spoke a little bit about that. So it's about demonstrating mature confidence. Most of you are from mid to senior management. You've all had at least 15 years of work ex. Look into that experience. Look into the cycles that you have lived through. So you'll be able to manage your moods, manage your feelings, your emotions, and your knowledge better. So I think self-management is also about constantly upgrading yourself, growing yourself. So it may feel hard at times to adapt to newer responsibilities. And you may feel like this is taking me out of the comfort zone. But as a leader, it's important that you step up and accept the fact that you are going to have to demonstrate adaptability, because that will inspire your teams also to demonstrate that adaptability. What could you do to develop yourself? Ask yourselves, what are those areas? Like, do I need to acquire some knowledge that I was thinking I need to do some course? Do I need to perhaps take some classes? Do I need to ask someone to mentor me? Do I need to talk some of the people that I look up to and learn from them? What are the things I need to do? Do I need to take care of my fitness? If I'm fit, is it helping me take better decisions? Look out for people more. Ask yourself what you need to do. Keep continuing your education. That is extremely critical, because if you don't end up managing self, then everything else will become, I think, to me, leadership starts with managing yourself. And then that managing self becomes the cornerstone of any form of management. And that's what you need to do. So there was a leader, another leader who was really fantastic at his job, and he founded this company and it was doing great. He had a great team and they were doing fabulously well. And after one point, they plateaued out. It wasn't going anywhere. It was the same old cycle, which was just at a plateau. The company was doing what it had to do. There was no growth. There was no upward graph. And he couldn't understand what was going wrong. Like, at what point he thought he started great. There was value in the business. He had a great team. What was the one thing that was going wrong? And he actually tried to introspect, and what he realized is that he didn't know how to take things to the next level. He knew this: start, deliver, get the revenue, get the profit, set up the team. But now I don't have the vision to look forward. And even if I have a dream or a vision to look forward, I don't know how to get there. What do I need to get there? He realized that he needed to actually sign up for certain programs, training programs and courses, sign up for coaching to figure out where are the areas where he needs to grow. And then he actually implemented that and he started seeing the results. He realized that there was this much he knew, and then he needed to upgrade his knowledge to have a broader understanding of his own business, his industry, and the vision, and where he could take his vision. So don't be afraid of growing slowly. If you're going at a slow pace, that's fine. Don't be afraid of recognizing that you may need to develop yourself further, because it's only when you're stagnant is when you need to start worrying and when you need to be afraid. So keep learning. And another good thing that will happen is that if you keep signing up for these things and you are constantly acquiring knowledge, whether it's from your teams, your bosses, training programs, coaching, you are setting an example also for your own teams that, hey, you know what, it is important to upgrade ourselves, and even we need to keep getting better. We don't have to keep feeling that we are good enough, and why is anyone thinking that we need to do anything more towards our skills. So set those examples, and that's important. Agility, empathy, self-management competencies. The next one is your interpersonal competencies. Again, extremely critical. You can be empathetic, but if you don't communicate, if you don't express, if you don't build your relationships and don't know how to actually make it with, as a leader, like I keep saying, we can be bosses, we can be managers, or we can be performers. But when we look at ourselves as leaders, then we take on that mantle. We take on the mantle of delivering more than the others, being there more for the others. And I won't get into the scientific side of it, but also having a good relationship, showing care, showing empathy actually builds your resilience. And there is a scientific reason to it. It releases certain hormones that make you stronger and make you more resilient. So apply these competencies, because it will also help you develop yourself, but also that's one, but also get you better outcomes with your own teams, right? And I love this quote: the single biggest problem in communication is we always feel that, oh, but I don't think she has a problem. I don't think he has a problem. I think they are smart, they'll understand. I think they are strong, they'll understand. I think they know that I'm thinking about them. They know that, this is my vision and they'll take it forward. We assume that the communication has happened because we keep giving people a lot more human credit than is humanly possible. So start noticing if you also uh, have a tendency of doing that, and arrest that tendency and very consciously practice it. Building relationships, no time better than this one. Your network is going to determine your net worth, because with that you can think of one, personal growth, professional growth, and then strategic growth for your own organizations. How do you do that? I think in times like these, there are just so many ways in which you can build relationships online, because we feel, oh, we can't go anywhere. How do we build relationships? But ideally, you can sign up for summits, and that's where you'll figure out a community, a tribe that can be your own. You can participate in online training programs. You're getting another community of like-minded people with like-minded goals. You will learn so much if you just did that, and that will also help you hone up your relationships. In other words, develop interpersonal competency. Another thing is, you should be able to influence your teams also. I think interpersonal competencies are really good, not just for your networking and external networking outcomes, but also to be able to get your team on board with your vision, get your team on board with the mission of the company, get your team on board with the plans. So I think that's another extremely critical thing. And inspiring trust. I'm going to share a very, it's an example very close to me. I know of this company. I think times like these require you to go an extra mile, because people around you will go that extra mile too. But you as a leader needs to go that extra mile in inspiring trust of your stakeholders. Figure out how can you add value to your stakeholders, and they could involve your colleagues, vendors, clients. Figure that out. There is a company that I know, and it's a healthcare company, but it's a group company. They have about 5-6 different things what they do in healthcare. And I am privy to information in this, and that's so sad, because I'm coaching someone from that company, but I won't take the name. From the day the lockdown happened, this company and its founders, who are exceptionally highly educated, very, very prolific. When you talk to them, you'll be impressed. You feel, wow, these are the leaders I want to work with. These people have gone quiet, radio silence on anything to do with their teams. So even if they don't know, they could have been vulnerable enough to admit, and they could have told their teams, but they chose not to. Eventually, when the team started asking, hey, what is going on? Salaries haven't come. What's going on? They turned around and said, hey, we don't know where we are heading. So we can't pay you any money, but continue working so that when things become okay after how many ever months, we can again restart, and you'll still have the job from that point on. But for these months, we are not going to pay you anything, but keep working for us. So you keep doing whatever marketing needs to be done, whatever communication needs to be done, whatever your roles are that need to be done, continue doing it, but you're not getting paid. The only thing is, if you do it, then whenever we start work again, we will give you preferential treatment. I think a company that does this is a surefire way to actually completely break the trust of all your stakeholders and employees. So I think what they could have done was actually given them a roadmap and said, hey, we don't know what's going on. The business is shut. These are the kind of losses that we are making, and we want to figure out which is the best way to do it. Let's have a mastermind. They did none of that. They have just left people stranded, left people hanging, and they don't have goodwill today. They don't inspire trust. So now they want some of those people to work with them, saying, hey, things are starting to happen, we can. Nobody wants to work with them even though they are out of job. So that's what inspiring trust is about. On the flip side, there is another company which is also it's also a serial entrepreneur who has this fintech startup. I remember a very heartening message of it was like a broadcast message. I think they sent to everybody and all their stakeholders, and I got that message too, where they actually gave assurance to all their employees that we are not laying off anybody. We are at this point trying to find systems and methods to make it more efficient and more effective and more affordable, but none of you are going to be laid off, and we will give you your salaries. However, if we come up with some pay cuts, we would really, really like it if you could understand where we are coming from and accommodate for a short period. I think I would love to have worked with this kind of a founder than the other one. So that's where your trust and the way you inspire trust comes into play, and that's extremely critical. Motivational competencies, you need that right now, but you will need that even after the new normal arises and business is back to normal. All of these competencies. Keep thinking, how can I add value to my stakeholder? What can I do to be able to, one, give them value, whether it's colleagues, whether it's teams, and whether it's clients. So the moment that is what you are doing, that is what your teams will do. And that's how we get better business outcomes. I love what Rupert Murdoch says. He says, I motivate people, I hope, by example, and perhaps by excitement, by having productive ideas to make others feel involved. So the moment you involve your people and you enlist them in your journey of figuring out innovation, newer practices, whether it's innovation in your services, innovation in your product, or also innovation in your methodology or your approach or your processes, encourage them, encourage innovation, listen to them, understand what they have to say, have an open mind. And at that time, today as leaders, we have to be able to look at our own individual units. For those of you who are in corporates also, look at it like your own individual business. Show that entrepreneurial orientation within your teams, within your units, to figure out, hey, how can I add value? How can I contribute to revenues? How can I cut costs? How can I create a culture which is in sync with the main value system of the company, or also which is helping the business outcome? So those are the questions you need to ask yourself. And when you do that, when you do this mastermind with your counterparts and also sometimes with your teams, they will feel motivated to deliver far more than if you just told them, hey, you know what, you're doing a great job, come on, now let's produce outcomes. But if you enlisted them, if you involved them, if you made them feel that they contribute towards positive outcomes, that motivation is going to also motivate the results of your business. And last but not the least, my favorite are your communication competencies. Good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity, whether communication in this case means you being able to speak well, you being able to speak with an intent which has a close impact on others. And, I really like this example of, so Netflix has this culture deck. If some of you have seen it, great. If you haven't, I would love all of you to just Google and look for that culture deck of Netflix. I think it is so inspiring, and there is so much learning in that culture deck that you may want to adopt those practices as leaders. So make sure you Google the Netflix culture deck. I think it's some 120, or I don't recall how many slides, but every slide is amazing. And there they say it's context, not control. And it's, of course, in the larger cultural perspective. But I think if each one of us focused on context instead of control, even when we are communicating with our teams or our bosses, even in our personal lives, a lot of ego would be out of, completely out of the conversation. Defensiveness would be out of the conversation. Only the context for which you are talking. To give you an example, if today I had to have a session with you or a meeting with you to discuss the way forward, and I would perhaps try to allocate a budget of of $100,000 to marketing, and someone else has a better idea who may be my subordinate, and he has a better idea to say that, hey, what if we take this money from here and put it here and then allocate it in a different way? His idea is different from mine, but when you look at it, when you consider it, the idea seems like a better idea. I don't think I need to feel offended. I need to remember the context. I don't need to showcase, hey, I'm in control here. You first tell the idea to me, and then I'm going to decide whether I want it. Don't put it out here, which is actually the meeting is meant for brainstorming. That's where the ideas will come out. So the moment you stick to the context at this point for all of us will be to survive as an organization. And for many of us, I didn't say this in motivation, but also to look for opportunities. Challenges will have opportunities with innovation. When you see crisis, encourage your teams to find that opportunity in crisis by empowering them, by giving them assurance that you're there for them, and then they can innovate because they might find that opportunity. So today, if the context is to survive and find opportunities, we're not worried about control. It doesn't matter to me today if my team member comes online 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later, or if my team member has a suggestion which is different from mine, because I am going back to the context. What is the context? If this is helping me survive more than what I decided or I came up with, this is what I'll go with. That I am the boss, that I am the one who's leading tens of thousands of people, and I have had so much success. How can today somebody junior to me come and say? Just get it out of the place, and always remember it's context, not control, that we want to look at. Foster open dialogues. The way you will also, you need to have your ears to the ground today to know what's going on. So when you have an open dialogue, these are your members. You've enlisted them to tell you what's going on around you. It is not physically possible to know everything on, it's not like we can meditate and earn all the knowledge. So enlist support of your stakeholders and keep an open dialogue. That's what's going to help today. Open dialogue on opportunities, open dialogue on vulnerabilities. So if you're vulnerable, share it. It's okay. Authentic leaders are vulnerable. So if you're vulnerable, they will understand that, yes, we understand where this person comes from. He's not a robot and a leader who's supposed to know it all. Today, I don't know. And I am also trying to figure the answers with you. The moment you say something like this, your team will go double trying to find answers for you. So foster open dialogues of those around you. Don't shunt people, don't snub them. I think this is the time to ideate. This is the time to listen to what clients have to say, as well as your teams have to say. So in a nutshell, all I would say is that work on your, let me stop the share. In a nutshell, I'd like to, again, just emphasize that start working on your skills with regard to agility, empathy, your communication and interpersonal skills, managing yourself, that is extremely important, and then managing others by motivating them and giving them assurances. And I think these are the competencies that are going to hold good stead for the next very long time to come. And if this becomes your core, then all the other competencies can keep stacking up and you will keep becoming a far more effective and successful leader. I'm happy to take questions now.
That was a really inspiring talk and a very crucial, I think, not only you talked on the macro level, but at a micro level, also you tried to give them a path, basically the way can move forward, not only the organizations, but each individuals, also how they can develop their leadership skill set. So I'll request all the participants if they have any question on the issue whereby they would be wanting to share their view or maybe some guidance they want. They are all free to punch in their questions in the Q&A section just below the screen. I also appeal to everyone watching through the various social media stream also to come forward and put the questions. Now, already some of the questions what we have already received. The first and foremost, I'm just trying to group the questions. So if let's suppose 5-7 questions, trying to group and form a question out of it and throw at you. So maximum questions we may take.
Sure.
Is about the awareness. Okay. Normally, if in a lighter way, if I have to put it, generally, if we see talking about money, it was in our country, it was felt it is a bad thing to be a capitalist. But now in today's era, we are seeing the more you go do industrialization, the more jobs can be created out of it. Similarly, the word leader, I think somehow is also held in a very negative way, in the sense what I'm trying to say, if we take a survey, let's say about 100 people, how many of you want to be leader? I think many people would be question, oh, can I be a leader? Do I want to be a leader? Why I should be a leader? And at the same time, there is a big level of enigma also involved, because each and every people want to grow in life, each and every people want to success, and they don't realize in order to grow up and up, that leadership has to be there. So how will you take it, how important it is for each individual, irrespective of the job what they are doing, they should aspire to be a leader one day.
So I think leadership is a competency, right? So first you need to ask yourself, each one of us has demonstrated that in different areas of our life. Again, people often ask me that, but then leaders are born. And I say, well, there are many leaders who are born, but leaders can also be made. And, it's the decisions you take, the paths you choose that are going to then make you a leader or not. Now, if people are aspiring to be leaders, I think the key critical competencies they need to start working on, one is decision making. They need to work on also developing their own competence. So competence with regard to the work they do, competence with regard to handling people. So the moment you take charge, when you take charge of however small a situation, you are demonstrating a leadership ability. So I think the one big thing that I always tell everyone is, do not mistake getting a rank or a designation as leadership. Your rank is that of a manager or the boss, and leadership, you can become a leader only when you start working towards certain competencies, when you understand people better, when you are able to get better work out of people. Now, there are some leaders who will be very strategic. There are some leaders who will lead from the front and say, hey, come on, join me. Like if you look at many of these freedom fighters, they were all with the people. They would walk with the people. Does that mean that the person who was planning or strategizing not a leader? That also is a leadership competency. So what I would encourage everyone to do, if you aspire to be a leader, first, look into yourselves. I have shared the competencies with you, but I'm very happy to share that slide again. So what I would like you to do is just ask yourself, of all these values, which are the competencies you have already demonstrated in some way or the other? And then hone up those competencies even more. And that will make you a leader. I still remember, I started my career as a cabin crew 22 years ago. And at that time, I was fairly young. And as a cabin crew, you don't have to worry about business outcomes or transactions. You just have to make sure that once the business is done, the purpose for that is completely taken care of. But so how do you show leadership there? There is no money there in my business, because my business was on board. So the way we demonstrated leadership, well, for one, we were trained, and we knew that all you guys who were traveling, we were in charge of you all if something went wrong. And that would require us to demonstrate leadership skills. So do not feel demoralized that leader means only if I become a general manager, vice president, CEO of a company, I am a leader. Or only if I am generating crores and crores and hundreds of crores of revenue, I'm a leader. You are a leader wherever you demonstrate the ability to get to, one, manage yourself, and then to get your team on board. Or when I say team, I mean your peers, your boss. You're a leader where you're able to take charge and you're able to inspire and make other leaders and focus on outcomes. So don't demoralize yourself. Start noticing which areas you've demonstrated leadership in. Circle them, hone them up even more, showcase those areas a lot more. Which areas you kind of, you have a handle on, showcase those. Don't try to be an overall leader on day one. So baby steps, and you will start seeing that others, like I keep saying, you cannot be handed a certificate saying you're a leader now. You will have to take that charge. And how do you take that charge? Is by demonstrating these competencies so people are tempted to follow your charge, whether you have the rank or not. You could be a junior management person or a fresh graduate, but when you show competence, people will follow you.
Very well said. Very well said. Mr. Dinesh Singhal is there. He is asking whether you are available for consultancy. So I'll just tell Mr. Singhal ki just can you guide through your website, Vinny?
Yes, so I think I can even put down my email for
Sure, sure.
consultancy, which is I coach. I'm not a consultant, but I coach and I facilitate transformations in people. So if that's the area he's looking at, I would very much love to have a chat. That said, I also, of course, I have two websites. One is what I do for work in terms of my services with regard to coaching, training, providing trainers. But the second one is something I have been working on because I am passionate about developing leaders. I really, really feel that we should all have a workplace, whether it's our own or somewhere else that we love. I have worked for 4 companies. I was employed with 4, and this may sound vain, and I'm not joking. I feel I own all those 4 companies because I was like a cabin crew, and I started with Jet Airways in 1998, and I feel I own Jet. When Jet shut, I just thought a whole part of my body, my life, everything was just dying. For me, it's my company. I worked with Singapore Airlines, and I till date speak of it that way, and so with SR, and so also with Virgin Atlantic. Having had these experiences, the one thing I wanted to do was develop more leaders. And so I've actually now created a platform for leadership, for people to hone up their leadership abilities. And can I share a little bit about that with you?
Sure. Please do that.
Like, I'm very passionate about it, but also I would want people to know why I feel that's critical, because I come from, like I said, not every one of us will have all the competencies in place. And I think there are I don't even know which leader would have every competency. Like even an MS Dhoni is different from a Virat Kohli. So what I've done is I have got corporate leaders and business leaders, very highly reputed, to become faculty on my program and teach the skills and competencies that I have myself seen them demonstrating. So I would have called certain leaders who I know have a real handle on conflict management or a real handle on decision making. I've invited those leaders to then become the faculty on my program and demonstrate that. So I have 2 websites. Would you like me to show it to you?
Please do that.
Okay, so maybe I can just again share screen with okay, there's Google Chrome. Well, I'll just show you my website altogether. Here. So this is essentially what it is. I want people to lead the future. I want them to have a blast, enjoy themselves, feel like they own the space they are working in. And it's not work, it's relief. It's challenge, it's excitement, it's adventure. And I think the only way they can feel that is these little things with regard to competencies. If we approach those, then of course I can help you there. You need to have your knowledge and competence, but if you focus on these competencies, these human side of things, you will start enjoying your workplaces a lot more. So just to show you a little bit, so this is my one program that I'm passionate about. I have many other courses on this platform, but this is my program, and it's going to be launched on 15th August. And this is the faculty, if I have to just show you. And they've all obliged. They've just obliged me out of the belief in my vision, out of goodwill, all the goodwill that I may have accumulated over the 22 plus years of my career. And yeah, they have just bought into my vision. And I've got all these visionaries, these amazing leaders to then speak on different competencies of leadership. And again, this, I did not realize when I spoke to them, when I was approaching them, that they would do this. And today when I talk to each and every one of them, they say, you demonstrated passion and you demonstrated that you could see this through. And that's the reason we decided to oblige you. All of them. And also because when I work, I don't work like, oh, can you just come and talk? I chase them for content. I was like, okay, will it be like this? Will people understand this part of you? Can you give me this example? How did you take this thing forward? How did you resolve a certain conflict? So they had to give me a lot of time, and these people don't have that. So I was quite happy to get the time. I think that was really a blessing. And this course is essentially also a course that can, so while I don't, how do I say, while I do one-on-one coaching and I give leadership talks, to me, I wanted to really broaden that thing, because people may not always have that option, to come and meet me personally, or to come for a course that I'm delivering. I've had clients also, in fact, I'm going to stop this share now. I've had clients who've said, hey, you know what, okay, let's do this in Bombay and Delhi, and we want you to go to Hyderabad and this, and then the logistics don't work, bringing people together doesn't work. So that's when I thought, by the way, coming back to change and coming back to what you can do, I thought, hey, how can I not lose that audience? Right? So again, opportunity in that crisis. If they couldn't fly me down, or if they felt that we'll have to assemble people, how do I find opportunity in that instead of again just sitting down and saying, okay, oh well, let me go somewhere else. So I think that's, to me, the reason I showed this to you is also to show that this entire deck that I showed you is a lesson in project management that I have learned over the last 18 months, that also in a lot of leadership, to have these bright minds sort of hone up my skills and knowledge a lot more.
Well said. I think now Mr. Dinesh would have got the answer to his question.
Should I leave in the chat? Should I leave my
Please
email?
do that. Please do that. Please do that.
You have written that, right? Hold on. All panelists and attendees. And another thing, what I'd like to tell all the people who are aspiring to be leaders is, for one, ask yourself who is the leader you admire, or who are the leaders you admire, and figure out those skills that you like. See if those are, because typically you like people for certain values. Ask them, I admire this guy, what do I like about him? You will see that you like the values you yourself have. You can start building that. At the same time, ask yourself, which leader sucks? I don't want to be like this guy at all. Write that down and ask yourself, am I demonstrating any of these qualities? And that's where, you know, you will start emerging as yourself. Your real leadership values will come out.
Very well said, because basically the way, if in a very nutshell I have to speak about the leadership, though I don't have that much expertise as you, Vinny, have. But as I always say, ki many things teach you in life in an indirect way. So I have played cricket up to the highest level, so it has taught me leadership in a different way. So what I'm trying to say, ki the biggest thing about leadership is to make others great, to
Yes.
have an improvement in the other people, and create an impact there too. It's not a question of how good you are or how good your performance is, but you are responsible. In other words, leadership is nothing but a responsibility of taking the level of others to a different level. And when that is achieved, automatically as a team will improve upon.
Absolutely, because when the team sees that you are invested in their growth, they will follow you. Not just the team, like I keep saying, it's about followers, and it doesn't have to be followers on paper. So when they see that you are invested in their growth, they will follow you, and that will make you, like I keep saying again, they will make you the leader. You can't make yourself. You can't. Today I can say that, chalo bhaiya main sabse badi leader, but like if I have nobody listening to me, that's fine. I can be a leader in my head, but it's not helping any outcomes, any tangible outcomes.
I completely agree, because if the people around Saurav Ganguly didn't feel ki yes, he's Dada, he is our captain, he is our leader, he would have not achieved that greatness or the success. Or Steve Walk, for that example, or Imran Khan, for example. You name it, sports are for people full of. If the biggest leadership, if I have to give an example, was 1986 World Cup, when Diego Maradona led alone that team to the World Cup victory in Germany. So I completely agree. You have to take that responsibility and move ahead.
So Rishikesh, what I really like is, and that's remarkable, and I think you brought up a very good point, is like for you, you are drawing your leadership lessons from the world of sport. So let's say cricket. And I think the world of sport is the purest world there is, right? It's pure. It's just, everything is pure in that world, except for the management side of it. But the game and the sport side of it is really pure, right? People's hard work, people's performances. And I think what you brought out is very beautiful, that this is where you find your inspirational learnings from. And I encourage everyone to figure out what connects with them. Like I would probably find it from sport. I'm a runner. So for me, suddenly that becomes my connection. And, you know, I start connecting things to it from the defense services. Like That's the sheer place also again where you have got battalions and teams just following your order. So that kind of leadership, what is this leader doing to have the team follow that through? Because when you're out there, the ranks don't matter. It's the belief and the buy-in that matters of your teams. And so find out which are the areas that inspire you, that make you feel great, whether it's cricket, whether it's football, whether it's whether it's defense services, whether it's scriptures, whether it's one of those Ramayana, Mahabharata. Just see what is connecting with you and start drawing those lessons, because there are lessons everywhere around us. That just see what connects.
I completely agree. Apart from the sports, I also take inspiration and whatever is from the leadership. Biggest one of the speeches I have, not speeches, but the talk I have heard was Colonel Lalit Rai, who held that famous Gurkha regiment in the Kargil war. And he said in such a tense environment also, what they have done, they had a very small cave sort of a thing. So they named it Taj Resort. So what I'm trying to say at that point of time also, when the challenges are there, we may have the PowerPoint presentations, the luxury of the PowerPoint presentation, but he was saying he didn't that have, he just had a map and he had to use that in an innovative way to explain each and everything. And just to take, apart from the sports person, apart from the armed forces, I think the biggest example of leader, what I consider is, we all have with us is our mothers. Because there can't be a biggest leader than a mother, because if you see the type of challenges a mother faces in a house, that many times when we were child, she would save us from our father, because fathers are generally considered to be the stricter version. The challenges, the managing of the resources, each resource, we all agree ki we all come from a different background and different privileges we all would have, but each time the mother would have allotted a scarce resource to one sibling over the priority of the other. So I think if we look after our mother and just in the hindsight do a summary or go in a flashback, we would all see ki, wow, that is the biggest example anyone can have.
Yeah, for sure. Also disciplining people.
So also the next question I would like to ask, just if you can just give some pointers. I think it's very easy for us to talk over this webinar or a web talk to grow. Many would be a very brilliant lot of a guy or a girl, whereby hearing some, they would get a guidance. Maybe they will do a Google search or they would have just their own notes and improve upon. Rest other people would definitely want some coaching in the sense ki guidance and all that. So how you just took you randomly someone asked, so you accidentally we touched upon that subject and we went through your website. So I'm curious to know, if let's suppose Rishikesh wants to come to you and say, I want to enroll in your course, how can I benefit? Well, what are the areas basically, if the skill set what I will be getting out of it?
Out of the course that I just shared with
Yes.
you.
Yes.
So again, I have divided it into 6 pillars on which leadership stands. And, first, of course, I'll take you through what leadership, like you said, it's an enigma. So what are the things, what decode the concept of leadership? I think that is really critical for people to know what leadership really means. So it's nothing that's a very intangible, something mysterious. No, it is in our daily lives. So one, I'll take you through that, and then we'll go through the pillars of personal effectiveness. How do you become, whether it's your health, whether it's your empathy, whether it's your cognitive abilities, whether it's your time management skills, lots of different, with regard to leadership, when you are in charge of projects, when you are in charge of whatever. I could be a junior management, I could be a fresher, but you have kept me in charge of making a PowerPoint for you. How will I demonstrate leadership even in something like that? If, like you told me, a lot of our audience is lawyers and CAs. You've got me in charge of maybe going through this whole, an entire deck and find out loopholes in, within that petition for you to respond. I will take that on as leadership. So first, to understand how to manage yourself well to demonstrate that. Second is actions and achievements. How do you, one, manage yourself, and then what are the actions you take, whether it's in terms of goal setting, whether it's in terms of conflict management, whether it's in terms of decision making. So there are lots. So what I've done is I've divided the entire 6 pillar series into 52 chapters, because largely my audience is professionals. Professionals are looking to get better, and that is what my whole passion is about, finding that brilliance in people and then helping them see it and hone it up. So what I've done is, don't get overwhelmed. There's nothing. These are, I've tried to make it as fun as possible. They are video lectures, like I said, delivered by all. I've also bought these reflection worksheets. So they're like, because I'm a coach, I've kind of asked coaching questions after you see the course so that you can decide once you answer those questions with regard to you. So Rishikesh and, Vinee could be taking the same course, but Vinee will have a completely different outcome from that course, and Rishikesh will have a different outcome because I will have my own personalized leadership plan and you your own. So there are 52 chapters for those who feel, it's too much of a commitment, I have a job, what to do. So I just say, in a week, make a commitment of one chapter. And each chapter is like, some could be 8 minutes and some could be 30 minutes. But hey, you know what? That week is your tough one. And then the other. But what I try to tell people is, sign up, do that one chapter. And then in that 1 week, whatever you learned in that chapter, internalize it. Because you've also done that coaching worksheet, तो आपका एक Bible, Gita, जो भी आपने create किया है, you'll keep filing each chapter, and then that will become your leadership plan. Follow that through for a week, and then the next week, do the next chapter. Don't do more than that, and then follow 1 and 2 for the next week, and then 1, 2, and 3. So at the end of the year, you will, and you can of course do all of it within a month, right? So even that is possible, because total video hours, I think the entire course can be done within 25 to 30 hours. But what I would really recommend people is, do it sincerely. Don't just do it with the discipline to do it, because only change can bring about change. So if you don't make an effort will bring about change. Ideas don't bring about change. I have so many ideas, but like the number of ideas I have, Mark Zuckerberg and Mukesh Ambani would have been saying hello to me. But the point is, you need to be able to implement. So when you start making efforts, and these are baby steps. So don't try to become Milkha Singh on day one. And that's the reason I broke it down. I've actually constructed it like that so that professionals don't find it overwhelming, and at the same time, the whole idea of having these leaders talk is they are sharing their stories. So you'll have the leaders come and tell you why a certain skill worked for them, what was the story, what happened in that case, what were the steps that they thought worked. So this isn't what Google is telling you, but chalo, padhai karo, and I don't disregard that, but it's not academic. You are hearing from people who have practiced what they are telling you, and they're only telling you the parts that worked in their practice, and they will even share the parts that didn't. So the idea is, baby steps. You can do 1 chapter a week, 2 chapters a week. Maybe 1 week you have a lot of time and you feel, I want to group this, you can do that, and create that plan for yourself. I want everyone to create their own plan. Like, that is what I'm passionate about. That, hey, you know what? I don't have to look like, and the whole idea of this diversity was that every leader is different and they are all leaders. So you don't have to be like me, Rishikesh, and I don't have to be like you when you are so prolific and successful, because you can be you and be successful, and I can be my personality and be successful. I don't have to worry about, no, I think he's successful because he had the money. He's successful because, he had the exposure. He was in a better city. Uska luck ho gaya. No, you could be you and you will still be able to find your journey.
So in short, the way I've understood it, it is a very micro level up to the ground level what you have designed. And on a lighter note, if I have to share, basically you are trying to say, don't be a gamma in the land of a llama. So basically you are trying to say that little bit of patience would be required and little bit of time allocation would be required. And it is worthwhile and it makes sense also the way I have understood it, to give certain time and not to rush into things.
Yeah, so sorry, I just didn't really complete those pillars. So while I said actions, personal effectiveness, actions and achievements, is also impact, influence, inspire, right? That's what you do for your teams. That is what you will learn. Change, championship. So that's again very important. How do you watch out for what's coming? How do you prepare yourself? How do you remain relevant? So that's another pillar. So I think it's just basically, honestly, if you ask me, leadership skills, life skills, success skills, all put in one.
Great. I think audience today have got a very good discussion not only on the topic of the leadership, whereby the various aspects of the leadership were discussed, but though it was not of the part of our original direction of the talk, but as one of the participant asked us, and then I thought it would be very good for the benefit of the larger audience to get connected with you. So as a email ID of the faculty is already there, she has been kind enough to share it. Any one of you want to connect with her, please do that. Also, people viewing us today in the social media, I would like to tell them that in couple of days, this session would be available in the YouTube channel Rishikesh Vyas. You may just go visit in case some of you would have not viewed it from the beginning. Also, you may visit the website personage.in, right, Vinee?
Yes.
Of Vinee Ajmera. So there are lots of other things also apart from what we have discussed, and then maybe you can connect with Vinee also and take it forward.
I'm
Vinee,
very happy on LinkedIn. If you look up Vinee Ajmera, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm very active on emails. So yeah, just look me up. VINEE at personage.in and VINEEAJMERA.
So, Vinee, I would like to extend a formal vote of thanks to you on behalf of Udan Saluters. You are very gracious to accept, not only accept our invitation, but you didn't take it as a mere formality. But before the session also, we know how many times you have interacted, whereby you are putting questions across to me, will this be right for the audience? So you took that pain, in other words, to connect and prepare for this session. And we are very thankful to you, Vinee, for devoting some precious time. I know how busy you are because we have been in touch. That book also, and I will be before. I know I should not be doing it, but again, it is a very informal session. Again, can you just describe something about your book, where it is available? Because I found it very interesting, that whole concept.
Yes.
Can you just share something about your book?
So, it's basically a compilation brought together by Purvi Tantia, this lady who brought 22 other women also together from across the globe. So we have people from Australia, Europe, so whether it's Switzerland, Melbourne, Perth, US, different areas, UK, Scotland, everyone, so 22 of us have come together, Nepal even, and we have written our why we took the leap to start our own business and do what we are doing. And I think the whole idea behind this book is to empower others with our stories and the how-tos that can happen, the points to ponder from those stories to also take that leap. And what we are trying to do is also, this is becoming now soon a movement where we are asking other women to share their why. So this is of course an anthology for, by women and to also encourage women. But as I see it, I think a lot of everyone's interested. It's not necessarily only for women. The only problem is the pre-order is not available in India. It's everywhere else in the world. But for some reason in India, we can't get pre-order. So the book, again, with my course also, which is goleadthefuture.com and my Lead the Future leadership program, and the book, they both launch on 15th August. And that's when it will be available on Amazon.in. So it's an interesting book, interesting anthology, and pick it up and maybe somewhere in our stories, you might find your why.
So I think on a lighter note, 15th is going to be a very lucky day for you, hence going forward. 15th is going to be
15th August. Yeah.
Right. So I think that very concept is very, I am anxiously waiting myself for that book, because 22 human beings, I will not limit it to a gender, but human beings, 22 human beings coming together around the globe. And like your, whatever background I have understood, wherever you have started, I think in 98, and where you are, that's a 360-degree journey. No one would have thought, you yourself would have not thought from 98 to 2020 where you are and what you are doing. So I think it's very inspiring journey. Everyone, I think, would get a kick out of it, and maybe they also would be shifting to what they want to do at the end of the day. So I think, Vinee, again, we are very thankful to you, and we look forward for more and more interacting sessions with you. And definitely you are doing a very great job of inspiring the people, motivating them. Your TED Talks I have known are very motivating by themselves. Now you have become author also, so you're a multi-talented person.
Sorry, I have to specify international best-selling. author.
International,
It
come
was,
on,
yeah,
I'll rephrase it.
the books were top of charts in different categories in UK, US, Canada, and in Australia it was second. But yes, we just totally, yeah, it sold out even before.
So I feel कि very soon someone should come forward and make a Netflix series or movie. I don't know, out of this 22 inspiring, what to say. It can be good, can be a very good movie plot. And I'll have my IPR because I suggested that idea. Second, on a second level, I would like to share कि people should go and just see her TED Talks also, that are also very informative and motivating. Thank you very much, Vinee, for devoting your time, and we are very thankful to you. And I
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me and inviting me, Rishikesh. It has been a pleasure interacting with you also, and also with your passion to bring these talks to your audience. And yes, I'm happy to have done this. And thank you for having me.
I'll request all the audience tomorrow also they should come from 6:30 to 7:30. Tomorrow's session is going to be there where we are going to talk. The name it's I Talk basically, whereby well-known renowned ophthalmologist Dr. Kunjal Sechpal is going to come and she's going to discuss on the common eye elements. So basically, for us laymen, it would be a very good session for you to interact and maybe ask your queries on it. Thank you very much once again, Vinee. It was a pleasure hosting you today.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.